Hey guys, Vincent here, and these are Prussian heavy cavalry swords. Like my older overview video on Prussian light cavalry swords, this video is meant to give you a short and basic understanding on Prussian heavy cavalry swords. The topic of heavy cavalry swords is very interesting for me because this type of sword I'm going to talk about is somewhat specific to only a few countries in Europe during the 19th century. The type of sword I'm going to talk about is the Pallasch. Now, Pallasch is a word you probably haven't heard about before, and it could be roughly translated with backsword, but Pallasch is actually more specific than the very broad term backsword. A Pallasch is a heavy cavalry sword with a long, straight, single-edged blade designed for thrusting, and it features a big handguard, often made out of brass. The most famous examples are the French Cuirassier swords or the British heavy cavalry sword 1796. Other countries that used these swords for the heavy cavalry were Prussia, Austria, Russia and Bavaria, while most of them switched from the straight-bladed Pallasch to a curved saber. France and Prussia used these swords until the First World War. The usage of the Pallasch in the Prussian army started with the model 1733, which was used until the Napoleonic Wars by the Cuirassiers and dragoons. These two types of cavalry formed the heavy cavalry of the Prussian army. During the war, the Prussians noticed the superior French Pallasch design, and as early as 1814, when riding into the captured city of Paris, it is known that the first thing the Prussian Garde Cuirassier Regiment did was to switch their old Pallasches and carbines against French ones. After the final victory in 1817, the Prussian army was reorganized and the dragoons lost their heavy status and were now counted as light cavalry. Therefore, they had to give up their Pallasches and start using the saber M1811. During the next few years, there were also a lot of new Cuirassier regiments formed, bringing the final number up to 10. When looking for a new Pallasch, the Prussians simply took the captured French swords and started using them officially as their own model of 1817, a Cuirassier sword French model. I don't know the exact reason, but in 1819, half of the Prussian Cuirassier regiments got a new Pallasch. This time they were gifted to the King of Prussia by the Tsar of Russia. These Russian Pallasch model 1809 were adopted as the Russian model, or the M1819. Both the French and the Russian model were used side by side. This is highly unusual for the Prussian military, and I know of no other example where a single type of unit used two completely different weapon models. The M1817 and M1819 were the equipment of the Prussian Cuirassiers until the Franco-Prussian War of 1870–1871. After Prussia and its allies defeated the French army once again, they were again looking for a new Pallasch model, and they just adopted the French model again as their new standard sword for their Cuirassiers. This time they didn't bother to give it a new Pallasch model designation, and they just copied the French name, the model of 1854. You might have noticed that I didn't show you a Pallasch M1817, and that's because I simply don't have one. They are very rare and expensive, but the Pallasch M1854 you will see here in the video is very similar to the M1817. They only differ in some minor details on the handguard. The style of blade is nearly identical. Like all the other Prussian sabers and swords, the Cuirassier Pallasch was updated during the 1890s. First, they removed the lower ring on the scabbard, and in 1896 they shortened the blade to match the blade of the cavalry sword 1889. If you want more details on this, you can watch my other video about the Prussian artillery sabers. An interesting fact is also that with the adoption of the cavalry sword 1889 by the light cavalry units, the whole Prussian cavalry now used a straight-bladed weapon. The only sabers with curved blades were these in the hand of some supply units and the artillery corps. The Prussian Cuirassier regiments would use the M1854 until the First World War broke out. In 1916, most of the cavalry regiments were transformed into infantry-like units, but a few regiments could keep their horses, and with those they kept also their Pallasch 1854, and this stayed until the German defeat and demobilization in 1819. Alright guys, that's it for this video today. I hope you learned something new about these fascinating heavy cavalry swords. If I ever get my hands on a Prussian M1817, I will make a more detailed video about this sword, but until then you can also just look for information about the French Cuirassier swords from the Napoleonic Wars. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe and like or dislike this video. If you have any comment or question regarding Prussian or Imperial German weapons, please ask me in the comment section or just send me an email. And this leaves me with nothing else to say but I will see you guys in the next video.